Welcome to BeFM Drama. I'm your host, Joshua Cornwell, and today we're bringing you part 4 in our 5-part adaptation of The Man with the Twisted Lip, a classic Sherlock Holmes mystery from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes has been investigating the mysterious disappearance of Neville St. Clair, a wealthy man who vanished without a trace after being inexplicably spotted by his wife in the upper window of a filthy opium den near the Thames River. A police investigation of the premises revealed no sign of the missing man, but did uncover his clothes, and the only other person in the room was a well-known professional beggar named Hugh Boone, remarkable for his eye-catching ugliness, who swore that he saw no sign of the missing man. As we resume our story, Holmes's assumptions about the case are thrown head over heels by the revelation that Neville St. Clair's wife has received a new letter from her missing husband. Sherlock Holmes sprang out of his chair at the news of this letter, as if he had been electrocuted.
What?
Mrs. St. Clair stood smiling, holding up a little slip of paper in the air.
May I see it?
Certainly.
He snatched it from her in his eagerness, and, smoothing it out upon the table, he drew over the lamp and examined it intently. I had left my chair and was gazing at it over his shoulder. The envelope was a very coarse one, and was stamped with the Gravesend postmark, and with the date of that very day, or rather, of the day before, for it was now considerably after midnight.
Coarse writing. Surely this is not your husband's writing, madam.
No, but the seal is.
I perceive also that whoever addressed the envelope had to go and inquire as to the address.
How can you tell that?
The name, you see, is in perfectly black ink, which has dried itself. The rest is of the greyish colour, which shows that blotting paper has been used. If it had been written straight off and then blotted, none would be of a deep black shade. This man has written the name, and then there has been a pause before he wrote the address, which can only mean that he was not familiar with it. It is, of course, a trifle, but there is nothing so important as trifles. Let us now see the letter. Ha! There has been a seal here.
Yes, there was a ring. His signet ring.
And you're sure that this is your husband's hand?
One of his hands.
One?
His hand when he wrote hurriedly. It is very unlike his usual writing, and yet I know it well.
Dearest, do not be frightened. All will come well. There is a huge error which it may take some little time to rectify. Wait in patience. Neville. Written in pencil upon the fly-leaf of a book. Small size, no watermark. Posted today in Gravesend by a man with a dirty thumb. Ha! And the flap has been gummed, if I am not very much in error, by a person who had been chewing tobacco. And you have no doubt that it is your husband's hand, madam?
None. Neville wrote those words.
And they were posted today at Gravesend. Well, Miss St. Clair, the clouds lighten, though I should not venture to say that the danger is over.
But he must be alive, Mr. Holmes.
Unless this is a clever forgery to put us on the wrong scent. The ring, after all, proves nothing. It may have been taken from him.
No. It is his very own writing.
Very well. It may, however, have been written on Monday and only posted today.
That is possible.
If so, much may have happened between.
You must not discourage me, Mr. Holmes. I know that all is well with him.
I have seen that such strong impressions of truth may sometimes be more valuable than the conclusion of the most seasoned analytical reasoner. And in this letter, you certainly have a very strong piece of evidence to corroborate your view. But if your husband is alive and able to write letters, why should he remain away from you?
I cannot imagine. It is unthinkable.
And on Monday, he made no remarks before leaving you?
No.
And you were surprised to see him in Swandam Lane?
Very much so.
Was the window open?
Yes.
Then he might have called to you.
He might.
He only, as I understood, gave an inarticulate cry.
Yes.
A call for help, you thought?
Yes, he waved his hands.
But it might have been a cry of surprise. Astonishment at the unexpected sight of you might cause him to throw up his hand.
It is possible.
And you thought he was pulled back?
He disappeared so suddenly.
He might have leaped back. You did not see anyone else in the room?
No, but this horrible man confessed to have been there, and the den manager was at the foot of the stairs.
Quite so. Your husband, as far as you could see, had his ordinary clothes on?
But without his collar or tie. I distinctly saw his bare throat.
Had he ever spoken of Swandam Lane?
Never.
Had he ever shown any signs of having taken opium?
Never.
Thank you, Mrs. St. Clair. Those are the principal points about which I wish to be absolutely clear. We shall now have a little supper and then retire, for we may have a very busy day tomorrow.
A large and comfortable double-bedded room had been placed at our disposal, and I was quickly between the sheets, for I was weary after my night of adventure. Sherlock Holmes was a man, however, who, when he had an unsolved problem upon his mind, would go for days, and even for a week without sleep, turning it over, rearranging his facts, looking at it from every point of view, until he had either fathomed it or convinced himself that his data were insufficient. It was soon evident to me that he was now preparing for an all-night sitting. He took off his coat and waistcoat, put on a large blue dressing gown, and then wandered about the room collecting pillows from his bed and cushions from the sofa and armchairs. With these, he constructed a sort of divan or throne, upon which he perched himself cross-legged, with an ounce of shag tobacco and a box of matches laid out in front of him. In the dim light of the lamp, I saw him sitting there, an old briar pipe between his lips, his eyes fixed vacantly upon the corner of the ceiling, the blue smoke curling up from him, silent, motionless, with the light shining upon his strong-set aquiline features. So he sat as I dropped off to sleep, and so he sat when a sudden sound caused me to wake up, and I found the summer sun shining into the apartment. The pipe was still between his lips. The smoke still curled upwards, and the room was full of a dense tobacco haze, but nothing remained of the heap of shag which I had seen the previous night.
Awake, Watson?
Yes?
Game for a morning drive?
Certainly.
Then dress. No one is stirring yet, but I know where the stable boy sleeps, and we shall soon have the trap out.
He chuckled to himself as he spoke. His eyes twinkled, and he seemed a different man to the somber thinker of the previous night. As I dressed, I glanced at my watch. It was no wonder that no one was stirring. It was 25 minutes past 4. I had hardly finished when Holmes returned with the news that the boy was putting out the horse.
I want to test a little theory of mine. I think, Watson, that you are now standing in the presence of one of the most absolute fools in Europe. I deserve to be kicked from here to Charing Cross, but I think I have the key to the affair now.
And where is it?
In the bathroom.
He caught sight of my raised eyebrow and general expression of incredulity.
Oh, yes, I'm not joking. I have just been there, and I have taken it out, and I have got it in the Gladstone bag. Come on, my boy, and we shall see whether it will not fit in the lock.
We made our way downstairs as quietly as possible, and out into the bright morning sunshine. In the road stood our horse and carriage, with the half-clad stable boy waiting at the head. We both sprang in, and away we dashed down the London road. A few country carts were stirring, bearing in vegetables to the metropolis, but the lines of villas on either side were as silent and lifeless as some city in a dream. Holmes flicked the horse into a gallop, and we raced along the cobbles.
It has been in some points a singular case. I confess that I have been blind as a mole, but it is better to learn wisdom late than never to learn it at all.
In town, the earliest risers were just beginning to look sleepily from their windows as we drove through the streets of the Surrey side. Passing down the Waterloo Bridge Road, we crossed over the river, and dashing up Wellington Street, wheeled sharply to the right and found ourselves in Bow Street. Sherlock Holmes was well known to the police force, and the two constables at the door saluted him. One of them held the horse's head while the other led us inside. A tall, stout official in a peaked cap and frogged jacket came down the stone-flagged passage to greet us.
Hello, Mr. Holmes.
Ah, Inspector Bradstreet, how are you? I wish to have a quiet word with you, if I may.
Certainly, Mr. Holmes. Step into my room here.
It was a small, office-like room. The inspector sat down at his desk.
What can I do for you, Mr. Holmes?
I called about that suspect, our professional mendicant, Boone. The one who was charged with being involved in the disappearance of Mr. Neville St. Clair of Lee.
Yes, he was brought up and held for further inquiries.
So I heard. You have him here?
In the cells.
Is he quiet?
Oh, he gives no trouble, but he is a dirty scoundrel.
Dirty?
Yes, it is all we can do to make him wash his hands, and his face is as black as a tinker's. Well, once his case has been settled, he will have a regular prison bath, and I think, if you saw him, you would agree with me that he needed it.
I should like to see him very much.
Would you? That is easily done. Come this way. You can leave your bag.
No, I think that I'll take it.
Very good. Come this way, if you please.
Has Holmes somehow cracked the mystery of Neville St. Clair's disappearance? Has he established a connection between the missing man and Hugh Boone? What could he possibly mean by saying that the solution to the whole case was in the bathroom? Join us again tomorrow evening as the veil of mystery is finally pulled away to reveal the truth here on BeFM Drama in the final episode of our adaptation of The Man with the Twisted Lip.